The evening sun dipped behind the Lagos skyline as a convoy of cars pulled up before the towering gates of the Obasanya mansion. Chioma adjusted her geli nervously, her palm clammy against the lace gown her mother had sewn by hand. The mansion loomed above her, a world apart from the modest streets of Enugu where she was raised. "This is your home now," her husband Deji whispered, squeezing her hand gently as the gates swung open. His tone was tender, but his eyes carried unease. Inside the marble-floored foyer, crystal chandeliers bathed everything in golden light. The servants bowed slightly at Deji, their eyes darting curiously at Chioma. Before she could take it in, a figure descended the spiral staircase. Madame Obasanya, regal in her flowing iro and buba embroidered with gold threads. Her eyes swept over Chioma once, cold and sharp. She didn't smile. "So, this is the woman you chose?" Madame Obasanya's voice echoed, clipped and icy. Chioma bent low, greeting respectfully. "Good evening, Ma. It's an honor to meet you properly." "Humph." Madame Obasanya's lips tightened. "I expected a wife with refinement, but I see you brought us a village girl." The servants froze. Chioma's cheeks burned, but she swallowed her shame and kept her smile steady. Deji stepped forward. "Mother, please." "Don't please me, Deji," she snapped. "Marriage is not child's play. A man of your stature must think of legacy, not charity." Her words stung like whips, but Chioma only curtsied deeper. Inside, her heart crumbled. This was her welcome into the family, a declaration that she did not belong. Life in the mansion was gilded but suffocating. Servants tiptoed around Madame Obasanya's temper, and their whispers carried daggers. "See how plain she is," one maid muttered as Chioma passed by. "She doesn't fit this house," another replied. "Madame will never accept her." Chioma tried to ignore them, but the sting lingered. One evening, during a family gathering, Bizi, Deji's younger sister, known for her designer gowns and cutting tongue, leaned over with a smirk. "So, Chioma," she said loudly enough for others to hear, "do they even teach etiquette where you come from? Or is humility your only dowry?" Laughter erupted around the table. Chioma's throat tightened, but she managed. "Respect is my dowry, Bizi. Perhaps that is something you could learn." Gasps filled the room. Deji stifled a chuckle, but Madame Obasanya's eyes narrowed like blades. Later that night, Chioma overheard Bizi whispering to their mother, "Deji deserves a real woman of class, not this charity project." Chioma pressed herself against the wall, her chest pounding. Tears blurred her vision, but she refused to cry aloud. If they wanted her broken, she would not give them the satisfaction. Months turned into a year. Chioma and Deji prayed, hoped, and waited, but no child came. The absence of laughter in their quarters became ammunition for Madame Obasanya's cruelty. At Sunday dinner, she struck like a cobra. "Chioma," she said, slicing into her roasted chicken. "In this family, a woman proves her worth by bearing children. What have you brought us?" "Nothing." Chioma set down her fork, her hands trembling. "We are trusting God, Ma. In his time." "In his time," Madame Obasanya scoffed. "Do you think business empires wait on God's time? A barren woman has no place here." The room fell silent. Deji's spoon clattered against his plate, but he said nothing. His silence echoed louder than his mother's insults. After dinner, Chioma wept in the privacy of her room. "Why won't you defend me?" she whispered when Deji entered. Deji sat beside her, guilt etched on his face. "If I challenge her, I'll lose her trust. Please endure for me." Endure. The word burned her soul. Was she nothing more than a test of endurance in her own marriage? The weeks grew darker. Chioma tried everything, fasting, herbal teas, fervent prayers. Yet her womb remained silent. At a family brunch, Madame Obasanya announced grandly, "Next year, I expect to see a grandson at this table." Not excuses. All eyes fell on Chioma. Her pulse quickened. She glanced at Deji, silently begging him to speak. But Deji lowered his gaze. His fork scraped the porcelain plate, his lips sealed. Deji, she burst later in their room, her tears spilling. How long will you stay quiet while they tear me apart? He turned away, shoulders slumping. I am torn between two fires, Chioma. My mother and you. Torn. Her voice cracked. I am your wife, Deji. Your silence is louder than her cruelty. He reached for her hand, but she pulled away. For the first time, loneliness wrapped itself fully around her heart. It happened at a lavish dinner with Lagos elites, politicians, business tycoons, society ladies in diamonds. Chioma dressed carefully, wearing a subtle navy gown, her smile polished but fragile. Halfway through the evening, Madame Abasanya raised her glass. Let us toast to my son, Deji, who carries the weight of this family's empire. May he soon be blessed with a worthy partner to give him heirs. The guests chuckled, clinking glasses. Chioma's fork froze midair. Every word was a dagger. Madam, a guest teased, but isn't this your daughter-in-law seated here? Oh, her? Madame Abasanya waved dismissively. A mistake. A temporary shadow in this house. Laughter erupted around the table. Chioma's throat closed. The room spun. She stood abruptly, her chair screeching against the marble floor. Excuse me, she whispered, her voice breaking. Her heels clicked as she fled, tears streaming, her dignity crushed before strangers. Deji remained seated, paralyzed by his mother's power. His silence once again betrayed the woman who had given him everything. In the back of the mansion gardens, Chioma wept into her palms, the echoes of Madame Abasanya's words haunting her. A mistake. A shadow. That night, something shifted in her heart. She knew a storm was coming. Dawn washed the Abasanya mansion in pale gold. In the courtyard, the fountain whispered. Birds quarreled on the jacaranda branches. Inside, the storm had already begun. Madame Abasanya stood at the foot of the grand staircase in a coral iro and buba that flashed like warning lights. Two uniformed security men waited behind her, eyes averted. Chioma came down slowly, fingers tight around the polished banister, wearing a simple Ankara dress. She had not slept. Good morning, Ma, she said, voice husky. Spare me greetings, Madame replied. Pack your things. This house is not a rehabilitation center. Pack. Where am I going? Anywhere that is not here. Deji hovered by the hallway arch, shirt half-buttoned, guilt creasing his forehead. Mother. Silence. The word cracked like a whip. She turned to Chioma. You have wasted a year of my son's life. My name will not rot while you play saint. Chioma swallowed. Ma, I have respected you. I have tried. You tried and failed. Madame flicked her beaded fan. Kazim, Idris, escort her to the gate. The guards shifted. Ma. Kazim began, uncomfortable. Do your job, she snapped. Deji stepped forward. Mother, please, let's not do this like. Like what? Madame's nostrils flared. Like the press should see? Then perhaps your wife should have brought this family a child, not shame. The servants along the corridor pretended to dust, heads bowed. Only Mama Tenny, the cook, dared to meet Chioma's eyes, brown, wet, apologetic. Chioma lifted her chin. Deji. The name left her like a prayer. His lips parted. No words came out. Something inside her sagged. She drew a breath, nodded once, and moved past the guards. Her room looked suddenly smaller. That same room where she had placed hopeful baby name lists between the pages of a devotional book. She opened her wardrobe. The scent of lavender sachets she'd tucked into the corners met her like a farewell hug. Madam says only your handbag, Idris said softly, shame pulling his voice down. Chioma folded her hands. Please, my Bible, she said. And my father's photograph. The men hesitated. Idris glanced at Kazim. Kazim nodded. She slid her father's worn photo into the Bible and closed it with trembling fingers. On the dresser sat her wedding album. She touched it, then pulled her hand away as if from fire. She took the small brown handbag she'd used the day Deji paid her bride price. At the door, BZ appeared like a shadow with lipstick. "Don't worry," she said sweetly. "We'll find Deji a proper match." Chioma's face remained still. "When people choose thorns," she replied quietly, "they should not cry about blood." BZ's smile snapped. At the foyer, Deji tried again. I will talk to her, Chioma. Just give me." "What?" Her voice was gentle, exhausted. Another silence? His shoulders folded. Mama Tenny slipped a wrapped parcel into Chioma's hands. "Plantain chips for the road," she whispered. "My child, may the God of the fatherless stand up for you." At the gate, the sun had fully risen. The security men opened the iron leaves. Chioma turned once more to the mansion. Its windows glittered like accusing eyes. Kazim cleared his throat. "Madam, I mean Mrs. Abasanya, you want us to call taxi?" She shook her head. "No. I will find my road." She tucked the Bible under her arm and stepped into the street. The dust soft beneath her flats, the world suddenly too bright. The gate clanged shut. Behind it, her old life ended. The inner-city bus roared and rattled towards Enugu, swallowing kilometers of red earth and scrub. Chioma sat by the window, forehead against the cool glass, watching sunsets of rust and orange smear across villages. Her handbag rested on her lap like a child. She dozed and woke to hawkers calling at checkpoints. Gala, pure water, groundnut. She bought nothing, clutching the Bible. When the bus finally pulled into the Enugu Park, night had folded the skies into indigo. She negotiated with a Kiki rider and gave him an address by habit, her late father's house. The compound gate creaked. She still had the spare key he'd made for her before the wedding, pressed into her palm with a smile. If Lagos forgets you, this gate will not. The sitting room smelled like dust and memories. A faded curtain swayed with the night breeze. She flicked the switch. The bulb blinked awake. Shadows of her childhood swam across chipped walls, her father balancing a transistor radio on the windowsill, her mother, gone too soon, humming while stirring okra soup. She sank onto the worn sofa and let the tears come. Quiet at first, then loud, a sound pulled from her ribs. She pressed the photo against her chest. "Daddy," she whispered, I tried. Her phone buzzed on the table. Unknown number. She ignored it. It buzzed again. She picked up. "Chi baby?" The voice was bright, full of concern. "Ada speaking. Are you with Enugu? Mama Nena saw you at the park." Chioma wiped her eyes. I'm at Papa's house. Stay there. I'm coming now." Within minutes, a knock. Ada slipped in with the smell of rain and soap, arms open. They hugged with the ferocity of women who have survived different wars. "Who did this?" Ada demanded softly. "You already know who." Ada's jaw flexed. "Sit. Tell me everything." Chioma poured out the story. Madam's words, the dinner, Deji's silence, the gate. Ada listened, eyes flashing. "Chi, hear me. You are not a mistake. That woman is fighting ghosts, pride, control, fear. But she picked the wrong battle if she thought you would die from shame." Chioma smiled weakly. "I feel so small." Ada stood, went to the kitchenette, ran water into a kettle. "You are not small. You are seed. Seeds disappear into the ground. Chi people think they died. They don't know it's the burial that makes the tree." The kettle hissed. She brewed tea, pressed the warm mug into Chioma's hands. "Drink. Tomorrow we'll clean this place. We'll breathe inside it. And you will decide what comes next by yourself." Chioma stared into the steam. "Maybe I should leave Nigeria. Start again where no one knows me. And let that woman win?" Ada's gentleness held iron. "No. Rest. Then decide." They unrolled mattresses, said a brief prayer, lay down in the quiet. Outside, a rain began, soft, steady, washing the night. Before sleep took her, Chioma whispered into the darkness, "God, if you see me, send me a sign I am not forgotten." Morning carried the smell of wet earth and hibiscus. They swept the sitting room. Ada hummed as she laundered curtains. Chioma scrubbed the windows until light rushed in and sat on the floor like a friendly visitor. By afternoon, there was a knock. Chioma looked at Ada. Ada raised a brow. Expecting anyone?
No.
Chioma opened the door. A man in a charcoal suit stood under the bougainvillea, briefcase in hand, raindrops still pearled on his shoulders. Good afternoon. Please, is this the home of Mrs. Chioma Obisanya? Chioma's fingers tightened around the doorframe. Yes. He inclined his head. I am Barrister Teo Adekunle, representing the estate of the late Chief Adebayo Obisanya. I've been looking for you. Ada's eyes flicked to Chioma's. The room seemed still, the air thick with an answer to a prayer spoken last night. May I come in? Barrister Teo asked gently. Chioma stepped aside. Ada brought an extra chair and a glass of water with the speed of a hostess who suspects her guest carries thunder. The lawyer's briefcase clicked open. He withdrew a cream envelope sealed with deep red wax stamped in the shape of an O, ornate, unmistakable. Chioma recognized the Obisanya crest she had seen on gift hampers and letterheads. This, he said, laying it on the table like a relic, was entrusted to me by Chief Adebayo months before he passed. It bears your name. He instructed that I deliver it to you personally, away from the family. Chioma's breath hitched. Away from the family? Teo nodded. He was particular. Ada leaned forward, elbows on knees, eyes bright and suspicious. Why now? I've been searching since I learned you were no longer at the mansion.
He paused.
I am sorry for what happened. Chioma ran a thumb over the wax. Her name, written in Chief's familiar angular script. He had always been kind to her, calling her NWAM, my child, slipping jokes under Madam's cold presence. Thank you, Barrister, she said. Will you stay while I read? He hesitated. Part of me says give you privacy. Another part says there is information you may need context for. Ada folded her arms.
Stay.
If he tries anything funny, I'll shout. Teo smiled tightly. Noted. Chioma broke the seal. The paper inside was thick, expensive, smelling faintly of cedar. Her hands trembled. My dear Chioma, it began, ink slanted but steady. If this letter has reached you, it means storms have come. Forgive me for the things I could not say when I had strength. I saw what you endured in my house. I spoke gently to avoid tearing my son in two, but I prepared thoroughly to protect what is right. She swallowed, reading aloud for Ada and Teo. Madam has a good heart buried under stone. Time and power hardened her. She will resist you, then later, perhaps, repent. Deji is a good boy who loves too softly. He will learn. Until then, you must stand. Ada muttered. Ehen. You will soon receive a formal invitation to read my will. Attend. Do not fear who sits beside you. Truth has its own chair. Chioma's chest tightened. There is a clause, crafted with precision, to guard the legacy, and the woman I believe will shepherd it well. You need not fight publicly. Simply be present, dignified, and silent. The words will fight for you. Her hands shook harder. Clause, she whispered. Teo cleared his throat. Chief and I spoke at length about his intentions. I cannot discuss specifics before the formal reading without violating professional boundaries. But I can tell you this. He loved justice. He had a long memory. Ada reached over and squeezed Chioma's knee. The letter continued. Whatever happens, remember who you were before their halls tried to rename you. Your father would be proud. If Lagos forgets you, heaven does not. It ended with a verse reference and Chief's signature. A smaller card fell from between the pages, an official notice stamped by Teo's firm, reading of the last will and testament of Chief Adebayo Obisanya, to be held at the Civic Hall, Victoria Island. Attendance: immediate family, legal counsel, board members, selected media. Chioma stared at the date and time. Ada whistled. Public reading? With press? Teo nodded. Chief believed transparency would prevent mischief. Chioma's stomach fluttered with a cocktail of dread and relief. Madam will explode. Then let her, Ada said. We will buy fire extinguishers. Teo stood. I will arrange secure transport for you to Lagos on the day. Until then, keep this safe. He tapped the letter. And be at peace. After he left, Chioma placed the letter on the table and sat very still. The rain had stopped. Sunlight slid across the tiles, touching the wax crust and making it glow. Ada nudged her. God answered your prayer quickly. Oh. Chioma smiled through wet eyes. Maybe he answered months ago. The answer just found me today. At the Obasanjo mansion, the fountain still whispered. Only the headlines had changed. Madame's sitting room buzzed with fragrance and gossip as two society women sipped zobo and pretended not to judge. BZ scrolled Instagram, smirking at comments under a photo of Deji in a tuxedo. Madame adjusted her gully. Enough mourning. Lagos respects winners, not warriors. She clapped twice. Bring her in. The double doors opened. A woman glided in, the kind of beauty that made shade rise like smoke, silky weave, skin like polished bronze, a gown that knew how to be loud without shouting. Her perfume arrived before her smile. This is Tara Bamadil, Madame announced. Graduate of London School of Economics, founder of a small, very small, fashion label. Good pedigree. Elegant. Fertile, I am told. Tara bent slightly at the waist. Ma. Come, my dear. Sit. Madame's voice softened like butter on heat. You've met my son? Tara's gaze flicked to Deji, who had entered and stopped dead 3 steps in. He looked at Tara, then at his mother, confusion and something like nausea twisting his face. Mother, he said slowly, what is this? A tourniquet for the wound your foolish marriage opened, Madame replied. Tara's smile thinned. I don't wish to be disrespectful, she offered, voice low and polished, but I was invited to discuss a charity gala not. You will plan many galas, Madame purred, when you are in this family. Deji's jaw tightened. Mother, no. BZ rolled her eyes. A beg, what is no? Tara is what Chioma is not. BZ, Deji snapped, enough. For a moment, silence claimed the room. Tara shifted, her confidence wobbling at the edges. Sir, she said to Deji, I don't want to be used as a weapon. Madame clucked. You are a crown, dear, not a weapon. She turned to Deji. If you will not lead, I will. Our name cannot be left in the hands of a woman who cannot carry it forward. Deji exhaled sharply. You humiliated my wife in public. So. Madame lifted a brow. You sat there. Do not pretend you suddenly discovered courage. He flinched. A steward appeared at the door. Ma. Journalists are at the gate. They heard Miss Tara is visiting. BZ brightened. Let them in. New narrative. Madame nodded. Tell them we are announcing a partnership, fashion and finance. New era for the Obasanjos. Deji rubbed his temple. This is madness. Tara looked at him. Honest for the first time. Do you love your wife? His mouth opened, closed. I failed her, he said. Which is not the same thing. Tara stood, gathered her purse. Then fix it. She turned to Madame with a brittle smile. Thank you for the tea, Ma. I will excuse myself. Madame's eyes sharpened. Don't be foolish, girl. Do you know how many women would? I know exactly how many, Tara said and left. The press never got their photo. The story still spread. Mystery woman visits Obasanjo mansion after bride's disappearance. Comment sections boiled with speculation. Madame sat very still on the sofa, calculating routes, the way a general stares at a map after an ambush. Deji went to his room and shut the door. For the first time in months, he dialed Chioma's number and let it ring and ring and ring. She didn't answer. The afternoon sun in Enugu leaned lazy across the veranda as Ada spread freshly washed curtains on the railing. Chioma sat at the dining table with the letter open, Chief's handwriting a river of steady decisions. Beside it lay a small notebook where she had scribbled plans that alternated between cowardice and bravery. Canada? Teaching job? Boutique? Legal action? Each line ended with a question mark. Her heart did not. Her phone buzzed again, Deji. She let it ring. It buzzed once more, voicemail. She pressed play, but did not hold it to her ear. The speaker spilled his voice into the room. It's me. I don't know where to begin.
I'm sorry.
I'm ashamed. I slept and woke in a house that feels like a stranger. I can't defend what I didn't defend. Please just call me. She pressed stop, throat tight. Ada came in, hair tied with a scarf, hands on hips. He called. Yes. What will you do? I don't know. Then do nothing for a moment, Ada said. Decisions made from wounds bleed all over the future. They ate rice with stew, quiet between them like a third person thinking. After, Ada pulled out her laptop. Let's explore your options. If you want to travel, we count cost. If you want to fight, we look at law. If you want to build, we sketch business. Chioma smiled. When did you become board of directors? Since God made me your friend. They laughed. The laughter washed some of the ache. In the evening, Teo called. All arrangements are in place, he said. A driver will pick you 2 days before, lodge you discreetly. The reading will be tense. Will Madam be there? Chioma asked.
Yes.
And the board? And selected media? Chief wanted his legacy witnessed. Why me? The question slipped out before she could stop it. Teo paused. Because he trusted your conscience. And perhaps because he saw something in you that others were too proud to notice. After the call, Chioma stood in the small sitting room, staring at the photo of her father propped on the shelf.
She spoke to the glass.
I wanted to hide, Daddy. Run to a place where no one knows my name. But you didn't raise a runner, did you? The glass said nothing. The silence answered, no. Night came with a choir of crickets. Ada lay on the mattress scrolling through thrift furniture ideas for the house. We'll paint this place, she said. Yellow in the sitting room.
Plants.
A blue door. A bell that makes the kind of sound that says, you are welcome. Chioma's eyes softened. I like that. Also, we will buy a doormat that says, watch your mouth. They burst into giggles again, the kind that leave tears for better reasons. When the laughter faded, a resolve took its seat in Chioma's chest. She pulled the notebook closer and drew 2 columns, what they took and what I still have. Under the first she wrote, house. Husband's courage. Reputation, for now. Under the second, dignity. Friends.
Faith. Time.
Chief's letter. She circled the last, then underlined it. Read the last paragraph again, Ada murmured, already half asleep. Chioma lifted the paper. You need not fight publicly. Simply be present, dignified, and silent. The words will fight for you. Her lips moved silently. Be present, dignified, and silent. She folded the letter, placed it back in the envelope, and put it under her pillow as if it could guard her dreams. At midnight, her phone buzzed one more time. An unknown number. She ignored it. Then a message came through. Formal notice. Your presence is required at the reading of the last will and testament of Chief Adebayo Obasanya. Please confirm. She typed. Confirmed. She put the phone down, turned to the window, and watched the moon hang like a coin ready to change hands. She didn't feel brave, but she felt ready. In Lagos, Madam studied herself in the mirror, whispering to her reflection, there is nothing in that will I cannot bend. Her voice betrayed a tremor she refused to own. In a service department across town, Teo revised his opening remarks, praying privately for justice that could not be negotiated. In his room, Deji sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the ring he still wore. He whispered, God, give me one chance to choose right. And in a small house in Enugu, a woman who had been called a mistake placed her palm over a sealed envelope and drifted to sleep with a sentence in her mouth like a shield. The words will fight for me. Victoria Island Civic Hall was ablaze with chandeliers, marble floors glinting like mirrors. Rows of chairs faced the raised dais, where Barrister Teo stood beside a heavy oak lectern. Cameras from major Lagos outlets lined the back wall, red lights blinking. The room buzzed with tension. Chioma entered quietly, wearing a simple cream gown with minimal jewelry. Ada walked beside her like a shield, head held high. Whispers rippled. Is that her? The barren wife? No, look. She's calmer than all of them. At the front row sat Madame Abasanya, dazzling in a sequined iro that screamed wealth. Her eyes locked on Chioma, with contempt. Deji sat beside her, jaw tight, fingers restless. BZ scrolled through her phone, pretending not to notice the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, Teo began, voice steady, we gather to honor the last wishes of Chief Adebayo Abasanya, whose legacy shaped not only this family, but this nation's business landscape. Silence spread like a net. Teo unfolded the parchment. The chief, in wisdom, appointed me executor of his estate. He desired transparency. Thus this reading includes select members of the media. Chioma's hands shook in her lap, but she kept her gaze on the floor, remembering the chief's words, be present, be dignified, be silent. Madam whispered to BZ, watch how I reclaim everything today. The reading began. At first, it was ordinary bequests to charities, to staff, to distant relatives. Murmurs rose and fell like waves. Then Teo cleared his throat and raised his eyes. We now come to the central clause regarding the transfer of all businesses, real estate, and liquid assets of the Abasanya Group. Madam's lips curved into a smug smile. Deji's heart hammered. Chioma clasped the Bible in her lap. The hall felt suddenly smaller, air thick. Teo's voice cut like a blade. It is the wish of Chief Abasanya that all corporate holdings and properties be inherited by a son, Deji Adebayo Abasanya, provided that he remains married to Chioma Abasanya. A collective gasp. Reporters surged forward, cameras flashing. Madam's fan froze mid-wave. What nonsense is this? She spat. Teo continued firmly. Should Deji at any point divorce Chioma or subject her to humiliation or mistreatment, all assets will immediately transfer to Chioma herself, to administer as sole custodian. The hall erupted. Yezu, someone cried. BZ's phone slipped from her hand and clattered to the floor. Madam leapt to her feet. This is witchcraft.
Lies.
Forgery. Sit down, mother. Deji muttered, voice raw. Don't you dare silence me, boy, she roared. This cheap girl has bewitched your father from the grave. Chioma remained still, eyes lowered, knuckles white around her Bible. Ada leaned closer and whispered, don't flinch. The words are fighting. Teo held up a notarized document. This is Chief's signed testament, witnessed and sealed according to law. Challenges may be filed in court, but until then, these terms stand. Reporters scribbled furiously. Some whispered to their recorders. Power shifts in Abasanya Empire. Wife once humiliated may inherit everything. Madam trembled with fury, but behind her eyes glimmered something new, fear. The hall descended into chaos. Relatives shouted, journalists shoved microphones at anyone moving. Teo hammered the lectern. Order. This is a legal proceeding. Madam Abasanya glared at Chioma. You orchestrated this, didn't you? Manipulated an old man with your crocodile tears? Finally, Chioma raised her head. Her voice was soft, clear. I never asked for riches, Ma. Only respect. Her calmness unsettled the room more than rage could. Deji stood, tugging at his tie. Mother, father must have seen something. We cannot undo his words. You weakling, Madam hissed. First you marry her. Now you defend her against your blood? Ada sprang to her feet. Enough, madam. The world is watching. Every insult you spit is another nail in your coffin. Security stepped closer as cameras zoomed in on Madam's livid face. Reporters shouted, Madam, will you contest the will? Mrs. Abasanya, how do you feel being named heir? Chioma clasped her Bible tighter, whispering under her breath, be present, be dignified, be silent. Teo resumed reading smaller details, trusts, scholarships, medical centers. But the crowd could not hear. Their ears rang with the thunder already dropped. In one corner, two board members whispered, if she gains control, the market will favor stability. Another muttered, the press will crucify Madam if she fights this too loudly. The storm had begun, and no one could stop it. When the reading ended, silence lingered like smoke after gunfire. Then it broke, furious, frantic. Madam slammed her fan against the chair. I will never accept this. My husband betrayed me from the grave. A journalist shoved a microphone toward her. Madam, are you saying Chief Abasanya was wrong? She froze, realizing the trap. To deny the will was to tarnish her husband's memory before the entire nation. Meanwhile, Deji slumped back in his seat, sweat gleaming on his brow. His thoughts churned. If I love Chioma, I keep everything. If I lose her, I lose the empire. What kind of choice is this? BZ hissed at him. Say something. Tell them Chioma tricked father. Deji shook his head. I can't. Reporters now swarmed Chioma. One thrust a mic at her lips. Madam, what is your reaction to inheriting the empire if your marriage fails? Chioma lifted her gaze slowly, eyes shining but voice firm. My reaction is silence. The chief's words are enough. Flashes went off like fireworks. That single line became headline material. Madam lunged forward, but Teo blocked her path. Respect the deceased, madam. Chief saw fit to write this clause. You cannot shout it away. Her chest heaved. I will destroy her. Mark my words. Cameras caught it all, and the public would soon devour every second. By the time the will reading adjourned, social media had exploded. Hashtags trended. Hashtag Chioma the heir. Hashtag Abasanya scandal. Hashtag Silent Queen. Outside, the civic hall steps swarmed with press. Security shielded Chioma and Ada as questions flew. Chioma, will you return to the mansion? Are you reconciling with Deji? Madam Abasanya says you bewitched Chief. How do you respond? Chioma simply held Ada's hand and walked forward, expression unreadable. Her silence became her loudest weapon. Inside, Madam Abasanya collapsed into a chair, fanning furiously. This cannot stand, she seethed. Deji approached cautiously. Mother, perhaps we should accept father's decision. Her eyes blazed. You coward. She will ruin everything. Do you think board members respect a barren girl from Enugu? She is my wife, Deji muttered, though weakly. Then fix her, Madam spat. Bring her back, control her. Or else, she let the threat hang. Back in Enugu, Chioma sat that night in the small sitting room, the glow of Ada's phone illuminating the flood of messages. Strangers wrote, You inspire us. Hold your head high. Silent Queen, don't give in. Ada grinned. The country is on your side. Chi, they smell justice. Chioma breathed deeply. For years, I was their mistake. Today, I became their mirror. And they don't like what they see. But even as she spoke, her heart whispered, Deji, will you finally choose me? Or your silence again? The answer would shape everything. The Abasanya Empire trembled like a building shaken by hidden cracks. Within 24 hours of the will reading, stock analysts appeared on TV shows, debating whether Chioma might actually inherit. Investors love stability, one anchor said. The chief built his empire with precision. If he trusted Chioma, markets will follow her lead. In the mansion, Madam Abasanya barked orders to staff, who now avoided her glare. Tell the board members the clause means nothing. Nothing. Yet behind closed doors, she tore through drawers, searching for loopholes, sweat beading her temples. Deji sat in his father's study, the mahogany shelves heavy with books. He turned his wedding ring over and over in his hand. His phone lit with messages from journalists. Will you reconcile with Chioma? Will you fight your mother? He deleted them all. Meanwhile, in Enugu, Chioma's small house overflowed with flowers and cards from strangers. Stay strong. You are our queen. Ada read them aloud, laughing. Chi, they love you. You've become a symbol. Chioma shook her head, humbled. I am not a queen. I am just surviving. Ada smirked. Survivors are the best rulers. The next day, Deji arrived unannounced. His car glistened under the Enugu sun. Ada folded her arms as he entered. Chioma, he said softly, eyes red-rimmed.
Please.
Come back with me. Chioma looked at him steadily. Back to silence?
No.
Back to us. I failed you, but I'm ready to fight now. Her lips trembled, but she remained quiet. Ada stepped in. Talk is cheap, Deji. Where was this voice when your mother called her baron before strangers? Deji flinched. Give me a chance to prove. Chioma lifted a hand. Not today. The empire may depend on me, but my dignity depends on me more. Deji's mouth opened, closed. He nodded slowly, realizing, for the first time, that she held the power now. 3 weeks later, the Lagos elite gathered for the governor's gala at the Civic Center. Red carpets, flashbulbs, champagne towers. It was the perfect arena for a reckoning. Chioma entered in a flowing emerald gown, hair styled in regal coils, Ada at her side like an armored general. Gasps fluttered through the crowd. Cameras pivoted. There she is, Chioma, the silent queen. She looks the untouchable. Madame Abasanya, in a glittering silver lace, stiffened at the sight. She tried to glide past, her entourage in tow, but the crowd swarmed Chioma instead, shaking her hand, praising her strength. Mrs. Abasanya, a minister's wife, gushed, "You are the true heir of dignity. My daughters adore you." Chioma smiled graciously, thanking each one. Ada whispered in her ear, "Look at Madame. She's choking." Indeed, Madame stood at the fringe, ignored, her sequins suddenly dull. She forced a smile, tried to approach, but people turned their backs, leaning closer to Chioma instead. Reporters shouted, "Chioma, over here." Flashes lit the room as her photo with dignitaries spread instantly online. Deji watched from across the hall, torn between pride and shame. He knew this was the woman his silence had nearly buried. And now, she bloomed before all of Lagos. At the height of the evening, the governor himself raised a toast. To Mrs. Chioma Abasanya, the embodiment of grace under fire. May her example remind us that true strength does not need to shout. Applause thundered. Madame's glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the marble floor. For the first time, it wasn't Chioma who was humiliated. It was Madame Abasanya. Midnight. The rain fell in sheets outside Chioma's modest Enugu gate. A car pulled up. Headlights swept the compound wall. The gatekeeper hesitated before opening. There, kneeling in the mud, was Madame Abasanya. Her geli sagged, her wrapper drenched, mascara streaking down her face. "Chioma," she cried, voice breaking. "Chioma, forgive me." Ada rushed out, stunned. "Madam?" In the rain. "Please," Madam sobbed, clutching her wrapper. "I beg you, save the family name. The board whispers of removing us, giving everything to outsiders. Only you can stop them." Chioma stepped onto the veranda, holding a lantern. Her heart jolted at the sight, her tormentor, humbled in mud. "Ma," she said softly, "what are you doing?" "I am begging," Madam gasped. "I wronged you. I mocked you. I threw you out. But you hold the keys now. Without you, we are finished." Ada crossed her arms. "Oh, now you remember she exists?" Madam ignored her. She crawled closer on her knees. "Chioma, please. I was blind. You are not a mistake. You are the only one my husband trusted. Save us. Save me." Chioma's throat tightened. She saw flashes of the past, the dinner insult, the gate slamming shut, the laughter of guests. Yet here was the mighty woman, bent and broken by her own cruelty. Ada hissed, "Don't fall for crocodile tears." But Chioma whispered, "Every tear teaches something." She motioned for Madam to stand. "Come inside, Ma. You'll catch your death in this rain." The living room glowed with lantern light. Madam sat wrapped in Ada's blanket, trembling, her pride leaking with every shiver. Chioma sat opposite, silent. Ada perched by the door, arms folded, ready to defend her friend. "Chioma," Madam began, voice hoarse, "I mocked you because I feared you. Not you, but what you represented, change. I clung to control. And in doing so, I destroyed my family. Chioma studied her. Do you regret the insults? Or only the consequences? Madam's eyes welled. Both. I regret calling you barren, worthless. I regret silencing my son. I regret not seeing the woman God himself placed in this house. Deji entered then, having followed his mother's car. His eyes met Chioma's. She speaks truth. And so must I. My silence destroyed us, Chioma. I failed you. I failed as a husband. Chioma's chest rose and fell. And what do you want now, Deji? His voice cracked. A chance, not for wealth, not for the empire. For us. I still love you. Ada's eyes rolled. Love is not enough. Respect is. The room stilled. All eyes turned to Chioma. Her heart ached. Memories of first kisses, laughter, prayers whispered together. But memories of silence and humiliation pressed harder. At last she spoke. I will forgive. But forgiveness is not forgetting. And forgiveness does not always mean return. Madam closed her eyes, tears spilling freely. Deji lowered his head, knowing the truth in her words. Chioma stood slowly. This empire will not be ruled by bitterness. I will lead with compassion. But my dignity has a price, and it will never again be silence. Weeks later, the Abasanya board assembled for a historic press conference. Reporters filled the hall, cameras aimed at the podium. Chioma walked in, clad in a tailored white suit, her head wrapped in a regal geli. Ada stood proudly behind her. Deji and Madam sat quietly in the front row, subdued by circumstance, watching the woman they once dismissed. Ladies and gentlemen, Chioma began, voice strong, I did not choose this fight. It chose me, but I choose what comes next. The Abasanya Empire will no longer be a monument to pride. It will be a vessel for compassion. She outlined scholarships, hospitals, women's empowerment projects, a new vision rooted not in fear but in hope. Applause erupted, reporters scrambling to capture every word. Social media exploded. Hashtag Crown Queen, hashtag Chioma leads, hashtag Justice from the grave. As she stepped down from the podium, a journalist shouted, Mrs. Abasanya, what do you say to those who mocked you before? Chioma smiled faintly, her eyes glistening. I say thank you. Without their cruelty, I might never have discovered my strength. Deji's eyes filled with tears as he clapped, whispering, That's my wife. Madam bowed her head, humbled at last. Chioma stood tall as flashbulbs bathed her in light. The same society that once called her a mistake now bowed in respect. The girl who was thrown out in shame had returned as the queen of an empire, crowned not by diamonds, but by dignity. And in that moment, Chioma knew. Silence had once been her prison. Now it was her crown. The end.